What's going on, guys? This is Chandler Smith, and I am here with millionaire and million subscriber Nate O'Brien, and we're going to be talking about his investing. He likes stocks, I like real estate. We're also going to be talking about how he is a major minimalist, even being a millionaire, and I'm not so much.
I think we do have some differences, right? With our lifestyles and the way that we view things, but neither one's wrong, right? We have just different styles, so we can dive into that a little bit today, right?
Yeah. So with all of that being said, let's jump into it. All right, guys, if you follow me, you know I've had a YouTube channel for probably about 2 years, a little over that. And one of the people that was a big inspiration to me was the one and only Nate O'Brien. And the last year or so, especially, his channel has absolutely exploded. He's got over 1 million subscribers. He gives tons of incredible investing advice on his channel. And you're kind of like one of the founding fathers of finance YouTube.
That's a little bit of a stretch, but I probably did start with the finance YouTube pretty early, like early 2017. So they didn't really exist before then. I didn't create it. I was probably like I was like on the first wave though, and I got really lucky that I just ended up in the right place at the right time, and started when I did.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I know one of the reasons that I've always loved your channel is, one, you're extremely relatable, and two, you give great advice, and you give it in a lot of areas that I personally have kind of wanted to hedge into, but haven't, because I love investing in real estate and that side of things. You also are the ultimate minimalist. And so let's kind of talk about that, because I know, I'm in the process of building a home and doing other things, and you're currently living out of your truck.
I guess so. It's more comfortable than it looks, really, I promise. I broke my lease in Philly. I like apartment living, but I felt like I was spending money on something that I wasn't really using, because I just travel all the time. I love traveling, I just live life on the road. So I was looking at my expenses for my apartment. It was like $1,800 a month, and I was there maybe 1 week per month in that apartment. So it just didn't really make a lot of sense to continue leasing something when I'm always moving. So I figured, why not just make my house my car and the same thing, and save a lot of money that way, but also just have total freedom to go anywhere I want.
My question for you is, I know that you make great money. I know you easily can afford your apartment. You easily could afford a house, and a really nice house at that. Is there not a part of you that likes having that home to come home to?
I feel like it's more stress because, it is nice having something to come home to, definitely. But I found that my plants would die because I wasn't home. This is why I can't have pets, because I'm just traveling all the time. And I feel like it would stress me out. I almost bought a house in January, and maybe I'll buy one in the next year or something. I don't know. But I almost bought one, and I stopped, and I thought, do I really want to have all these obligations now with the house? Because I'm probably not going to be there most of the time anyway. So, how am I going to mow the lawn? I have to find somebody to do that. What if a pipe breaks, or clean out your gutters, and all kinds of just random things that go along with owning a home or having some type of property that I didn't really want to have to deal with, at least in the short term. I'm 22, so maybe, I'm sure when I'm 30, I'm going to have a house and everything. For now, it just made a lot of sense to just be on the road.
No, I guess that resonates a little bit. I think my question for you is, right now you don't have one, and you're living out of your car when you could afford a lot more. Do you ever see yourself getting to the point where you want the big house, where you want a nicer car, where you want those things?
Not a big house, maybe land. I love land. But I don't have a need to have a large house. I feel like it wouldn't feel homey. I don't know if that's a word, I might have just made that up, but homey, right? And so probably eventually I'll buy a big plot of land and maybe build a house on it, but like a regular size, maybe 2,000 square foot house or something, but nothing nuts. But your house is pretty large, right?
It's a little bigger than that for sure. Yeah. I think for me, I've always been motivated by that goal, right? Mm-hmm. I'm similar. I wanted the land. We're on 4 acres on our house, and I wanted a lot of space. We're in a cold area, so I wanted an indoor basketball court, an indoor pool, to have it, right?
Yeah, that does sound nice.
When you laugh at me, I'm like, oh, maybe I
No,
don't
that
need
sounds
those
really
things.
nice. Now that you say that like that, I can't go swimming in here.
Yeah. I think the one thing that I love about your thought process though is, and you told me this over lunch, it just makes it easy to relate to everyone. You never feel like you're in this area where it's hard to communicate or relate or...
Yeah, I just feel like if I went out and spent millions of dollars on stuff, like I feel like I would be disconnected from other people, and I never want to feel like that. So that's just kind of why I'm not cheap. I'm not frugal. I spend money. I'll spend money on plenty of things. I don't think it's necessary as well in order for me to be happy.
With you, it's hard to debate something because your rationale does make sense. With that being said, have you ever been motivated by something that is more expensive? I know for me, being motivated by being able to work towards a car or towards a house. I guess, what are your big motivators, and do those ever work as motivators or not so much?
So the weird thing is that for me, the motivator was really just, I want complete freedom on what I do throughout my day. And that was really the only goal for me. And I feel like I've almost reached that at this point now, which is very nice. But in terms of like physical products or things, I never really set a goal for that, like of something like, oh, I want this mansion, or I guess it'd be nice to own a helicopter. It'd be nice. But it's not like a top priority. It's just sort of like, oh, that would be cool to have. It'd be nice to have, but not really something that I actively work towards.
I know a lot of times people will talk about their number or their amount of passive income or, whatever that is. Do you know what that looks like at the point where you wouldn't do work anymore, or do you think you'll always do work? How will that come together, and what is the number for you, I guess?
Well, I think you always have to be working on something, for sure. Like, I'm a big believer that you need to have some type of purpose and working towards something, because if you're not, like, what are you going to do? Just sit around all day? Like, it's I mean, you see that with people who retire, right? They retire, they've been working for 40 years, and now they're just kind of twiddling their thumbs thinking, well, now what do I do, right? Like, I'm just sitting in my chair. Like, I need something to do throughout my day to keep me busy. I'll always be working on, projects and new business ideas, but I would say for my number of what would be kind of, it would probably be pretty low, because I think you can always live off of, a couple $1,000s a month, for example, if you just lower your expenses. So right now, I mean, my expenses are really low. Like, I don't have rent or anything. So if my income went to $500 a month, I'd probably still find a way to get by. So yeah, I don't think it really is a number.
It's just what you need in the moment. You're not thinking. Do you stress ahead? Do you stress, family, or trying to make sure you have the money to afford the kind of lifestyle you want when you have kids and when you're in that situation in life?
No, because I feel like I can adapt my lifestyle, and my lifestyle is certainly inflated slightly over the past few years as things have grown. I feel like I can deflate that pretty quickly and cut my expenses pretty quickly and still be very happy with whatever I'm doing. And you can always, I remember thinking back to high school when I thought about what I was going to do with my life, and I always thought, I could always move to a different area where the cost of living is extremely low, and still be okay and live off of $1,000 per month somewhere, and still live fine, versus like if you were in New York trying to live on $1,000 a month, it would never work, right? So that's always my backup plan. If income really drops a lot, I'll hopefully just go somewhere where the cost of living is lower.
Yeah.
So that I can still have my time and my freedom.
Financial wise, and it sounds like everything always comes back to time and freedom, which at the end of the day, I mean, that is the most important thing.
Yeah, I mean, money is just freedom tokens. That's how I view it.
I love that. Is there anything that is on the more expensive side that right now you're working towards, or you'd like to eventually purchase, or you'd like to have?
Definitely land, for sure. Because
how much land?
I don't know, in the thousands of acres.
Really?
the problem with buying land, though, raw land, is it's a lot more difficult to get a loan for that, right? I'm not in real estate a lot, right? But it's a lot more difficult to just get a loan for 1,000 acres of land versus a home loan. So, working towards that, I've been saving up, and every year I think about buying some land. I'm like, well, if I just wait another couple months, maybe I can buy an even bigger plot and an even bigger plot. So that's kind of what I'm saving up for, I suppose, is a really nice plot of land that I can build a house on.
That's really cool. Does the thought of taxes that come with a big chunk of land intimidate you or stress you out? I mean, that's something that you can pay off a home, but you can't pay off taxes. Like, they're always going to be there.
Yeah.
Is that a stressor with a lot of land?
It kind of feels like nobody actually owns land. You're just renting from the government.
Yeah.
Right? So, because if you stop paying your property tax, it's gonna, you have some serious problems. Yeah, that is a thought, but hopefully there's ways to deal with that, especially if I buy farmland. You know, you can lease that to people to graze, or you know, for crops, or do it yourself as well. I don't know if I would do that, but yeah. So and there's plenty of resources on land if you're doing it properly. You know, timberland or different types of resources on there. So hopefully figure out a way to keep it sustainable that way.
Now, changing directions, you've been able to help millions of people on YouTube to become, I guess, financially responsible, whether that's helping them increase their income and also helping them lower their expenses. For you, I know you've done a lot with stocks and bonds and IRAs and 401ks, and you talk about all of that stuff, but you have never purchased real estate.
Yeah.
Is that tied to not liking to own things?
It partially is, because, you know, I think really, obviously I touched on the whole freedom and all that, and how I prioritize that. But I think I like the ability to be able to walk away from something and kind of disappear and disconnect. And I feel like it's more difficult to do that with real estate. Even if you have a property manager, you know, maybe they have to call you, there's a problem with the plumbing or something, right? And they still need your approval on something. So I like it so that there's literally nothing that I have to do. And it's kind of how I set up some of my YouTube channels too, where it's all based off of search content. I don't really go for the viral videos, because if I want to walk away for a month, I can do that. So that's kind of why, yeah, I'm not in real estate. Also, I like the liquidity of stocks and different types of assets that I have, where I can just cash out instantly if I want to. And I feel like it's a little bit more difficult to do that with real estate.
Right. No, that makes a lot of sense. Now, I want to come back to real estate, but everything you're talking about seems like you don't want the commitment, like you want to be able to bail at any time. Do you think that's part of it? Do you see yourself getting married, having kids, or do you like
totally,
just the single, like non-committal?
No, I'm totally gonna have a family and get married and everything. But in terms of my money and my assets, I like having liquidity, because I don't know, maybe one day there's gonna be something where I say, you know, I need to drain most of my investments right now, and I need to put it into something for emergencies, or who knows what it might be.
We're making poor James walk backwards across the street. I've really enjoyed hanging out with you and hearing the way you view things, because I love people that live a very intentional life. And it seems like you figured out exactly what you want. You know how to get there, you know how to do it. I also noticed that when we'll talk about things, I mean, you live a very minimalist life, and you know that I have kind of gone away from a minimalist life the last little bit, but you never come off as judgmental or you know, harsh at all. Do you see some people where it makes sense for them to not live the way that you live?
Yeah, totally. I mean, everybody just has different priorities in life. And, you know, there's plenty of friends that I have who really get a lot of joy out of buying a Lamborghini, which is like, that's great. Like, I don't have anything against that. It's just not something that I personally would find a lot of joy in.
Yeah.
But no, I totally wouldn't want to judge people based off of that.
So I am not going to try super hard to talk you into not being a minimalist, because I love your perspective. I think that's awesome. The one thing I do want to talk you into is buying real estate. Do you think that's something you could be convinced into owning rental properties at some point?
I could be convinced into it. I think I would rather have it set up where I could be like an investor, but not, you know, like have somebody manage it for me, right?
Yeah, I know a guy.
Yeah, exactly. So I actually have had real estate on my list for things that I want to get into, but I just have been taking my time with it, trying to figure out the best way to get into it. And I have decided that I don't want to be the traditional landlord. I would rather, maybe with a little bit less returns, but rather be like a silent investor into properties.
Right. Up to this point, what's been the biggest reason you've leaned towards the stock route? I know for me, I don't like that because I feel like I don't have a ton of control, and I feel like there's a lot more fluctuation in things. It also feels a lot more speculative, and like it doesn't always have a lot of rhyme or reason to it. And that's why I've kind of steered clear of it and gone with something that I know I've got this tangible asset. I know it's consistently gone up in value. Sell me on why stocks have made more sense for you.
So the problem was, well, first of all, I'm 22, right? So I'm kind of still young. But the
you
problem,
act like you're 35, like such a mature.
Well, most of my friends now are all like 30 and 30s and 40s. So, but no, so the problem is, you know, I've been, from 18 to 22, there's like 4 years there where I could have probably bought some real estate. I've never had a job with W-2s that would be easy to get, like a home loan. So I'm sure there could have been ways, but it was a little bit more difficult for me to get into it because, if I go to a home lender and say, hey, I have a YouTube channel and it started it 2 years ago, and they'll want to look at, 2017, 2018, 2019 tax returns.
Right.
So it was more difficult to do that, especially just kind of the way that business has been going. It was kind of hockey stick almost. So if they're looking at my 2017 or 2018 tax returns, couldn't get a massive loan. That's not an excuse, but it certainly was kind of just an extra barrier for me that kind of made me say, you know what, let me just do stocks instead of real estate and save the real estate for when I have a little bit more kind of set up there.
No, that totally makes sense.
Yeah.
So that's something and I think financially you've been so smart with your money, so smart with the way you do things. You obviously see the upsides of real estate compared to stocks. With other than, the barrier of getting in and tax returns and all of that, are there any other advantages you found with investing in stocks over real estate?
Just the ability to move into new ones quickly. So, for example, I might own a certain company stock and it's doing great, and then one day I say, okay, that's it. Like they're overvalued now, and I can pull that out and find something new. Where with real estate, if you say your money's tied up in your properties in Idaho and you find some great new opportunity in Texas, let's say, I feel like it might be a little bit more difficult to...
More like 30, 60, maybe 90 days.
Yeah, a little slower,
a
little bit slower in that process. So I like that ability to move quick.
No, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Like no one's going to argue it's more responsible to live a minimalistic life. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Some people might argue that like they might call you like a cheapskate or something, which isn't too good, but I'm not. Like that's also why I didn't make too many videos about like, like I know some people went down that route of like how to be frugal and like extreme cheapskates and stuff, and I never wanted to do that because I don't want to be framed like a person who's pinching pennies.
It's cheap. I think there's this
balance.
It's interesting though, because someone who is pinching pennies, they kind of lose the moral frame because if you're a cheap wad and you're taking advantage of people by being cheap, again, you don't have that. And I think it's that perfect balance of I'm financially responsible, and I also, I'm the guy that also pitches in for gas. Like I'm not trying to pay 40% of my share.
Yeah.
And I think that's so cool because when you can find that balance of being responsible while also not being a cheap wad, you're in the perfect place.
Yeah.
I will say this, thinking about sleeping in the back of your truck does not sound enjoyable at all. Like it sounds like not just okay, but less than desirable. Have you felt that way? Or there's sometimes you're like, man, I just want to go get a hotel so that I can take a warm shower, I can have a nice comfy king bed.
I mean, well, so I could if I wanted to, yeah. And I mean, I do that. Like I'll go to some Airbnbs, especially when I want like a nice desk and I can work and stuff. So I will do that from time to time. But I really don't know why, but I just feel like as long as I have a bed and this mattress is kind of comfortable, it's like it's like this thick. It's more comfortable than it looks. Yeah, like as long as I have a bed and food and water and like shelter, then I'm happy. Like really,
you're good to go. I have to ask, you are the ultimate stock investor. I've seen you've killed it. You've made some pretty good money doing that. If you're me, would you keep doing real estate or would you put your money in other places?
I would probably say, and I feel like I'm not one to give advice to you here, but I think it's always important to stick with something that you know and get really, really good at it. So you obviously know all the ins and outs of real estate. From my perspective, I would say stick with real estate because you're an expert with it, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of like when people try to be like a jack of all trades and they try to, do 50 different things at the same time, and then they end up just being kind of mediocre at all 50 of them instead of great at one. If I was one to give advice, I would say stick with the real estate.
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, and I hate to admit this, I'll probably do a video on it, but I got all of this pressure of everybody buying Bitcoin.
Oh.
And I was like, I gotta just try it. That being said, how much do you have in Bitcoin right now?
I don't know if I'm gonna disclose that. It depends on the day. It was down like 30% today, but yeah, I would say probably close to 15-20% of my net worth.
Wow, which
Yeah.
is
Ah,
well, we announced in this video you're definitely a millionaire, so people can do the math on $1 million at least, right?
Yeah.
Well, no, I love that advice, and that's the same way I feel. Once you get good at something, stick with it. That being said, I love real estate, so I'm always trying to talk people into getting into it. But there is a barrier to entry with that education, where there's also a learning curve. If you've put a ton of time and a ton of money into getting good at investing in stocks and understanding how those work, you're not going to get the same kind of return in real estate right off the bat because there's that learning curve, and so makes sense.
And that is another reason actually why I don't do real estate, is because I know that if I'm going to do real estate, I want to be really good at it. And I don't think I have the time, because there's so many other different opportunities. So I don't think I have the time to put in to actually be good with real estate. Because if I do real estate, I feel like it'll be kind of half-assed, like, oh, maybe I'll buy a property and then forget about it and won't have the time for it. So that's the other reason, yeah.
Nate, I have to be honest with you in saying that anytime I mean, we're making a YouTube video, so you want to have controversy, you want to have conflict, you want to have whatever else it is, but I just love the way you view the world. I love the way that you've invested. I love the work that you've put in. And I think the biggest thing I've got out of hanging out with you is just finding contentment in whatever you're doing. And I love the things that I do, but sometimes it's easy to get caught up in the rat race.
Oh, yeah.
And you've done such a good job of living an intentional life where you know what you want, you know what you like, you know what you need, and then you've held to that, and you haven't been persuaded into doing anything else. And I think it'll be really cool 20 years from now if you're out on 120 acres of beautiful land with your cute little family and your 2,000 square foot home. And I don't doubt that that's where you'll be, because
that's the goal. Yeah.
you live so intentionally. So thank you so much for meeting up with me. This was
Yeah.
a total blast. And it also was really cool. We haven't really talked about it in this video, but just seeing what you've done with your YouTube channel. So I'm a smaller channel for sure, but everybody, you've got to go check out Nate's channel. It's incredible. And I will say, every other YouTuber I've talked to, they're like, man, you got to hook up with Nate, because he's just the coolest guy. So
You're hyping me up too much here. Yeah.
No, you're the man,
thanks,
but
though. This was fun. Yeah.
It really was. Thanks for making the time. Nate actually drove, 2 hours this morning to be able to come and meet up.
Just about, yeah.
And it was a total blast. So thanks so much. And make sure that you guys remember to smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, and jump over to Nate's channel, because it really is cool. And thanks so much. We'll look forward to seeing you next time.